Hi, in this video we're going to be talking about some of the most important concepts from Chapter 2. This offers some different perspectives on mass communication. And so I want to start off by talking a little bit about just a reminder for you that our audiences are fragmented today. And this was a concept that came up in Chapter 1, but again what that means is that we are all pretty much today media consumers, and we're consuming media in multiple channels, which means we use our phones, tablets, television, movie theater screens with multiple devices in multiple places. We are all over the place with our media consumption, and so it's important to spend a minute to think about why we're consuming all this media in the first place. I'm going to be explaining to you the functional approach of media. This helps us understand what media do in our society, and as we go through this, I want you to think about whether one media might be more important than another, or one function might be more important than another. I've got a picture here of a Time magazine cover with Benedict Cumberbatch on it because I like Benedict Cumberbatch, why not? But that's an example of one media that's promoting another media. Time magazine might be promoting a movie he's in, or Sherlock, or any of the other projects that he's been part of. So let's take a look at the functional approach. Media serves certain purposes in our society. One of those purposes is the purpose of surveillance, which means media exists to keep their eyes on what's happening in the world and get very important and needed information to the public. That's how headlines come about. Media also help us make sense of those facts by offering some interpretation. Now, traditional news outlets are not really supposed to offer too much interpretation. Context, yes, but objectivity remains super important. Instead, we kind of rely on other media outlets and pundits and comedy shows to help interpret what's going on. If you are a fan, like I am, of something like John Oliver Tonight, or you were a fan of Jon Stewart, The Daily Show, or Stephen Colbert, then you are relying on them for interpretation of what's happening, sometimes really funny, sometimes seriously funny. And then another function of media is linkage. Media serves a function to bring people together. If you have ever searched for anything on Craigslist, like this ad here for a free semi-chewed-up chair, I mean, some of the Craigslist ads are just hilarious. They kill me. They bring people together. eBay brings people together. If you are looking for a really rare object, you might go on eBay and be connected with somebody who has that rare object for sale. Etsy is another great example of the linkage function, bringing people together who need goods and services. The linkage function is also seen if you've ever met anyone online for a potential date. eHarmony, Match.com, OkCupid, don't get me started on Tinder. That's another example of linkage, bringing people together for a variety of reasons. Media also serve a very important entertainment function, sometimes more entertainment heavy than I think we really should be, but we definitely are entertained by media. They also serve a very important socialization function. Now, this means that media transmit a lot of cultural values through their content and programming. Media really do a good job of educating us about cultural norms. If you have ever traveled to another country, then you've no doubt experienced this. Or if you were born in another country besides the States, and then you come to the United States and you start watching American television, you learn a lot about a society by just watching what's on TV. In fact, whenever I was at Auburn, one of my very good friends, Hai Jing, had just gotten to Auburn with the rest of my cohort. She had just gotten to Auburn like a week before I got there from Beijing, China. And though she had taken English her whole life and was really, really good at writing English, written and reading English, speaking English was a little bit harder for her because she learned the textbook version of English. And she quickly found out in Auburn, Alabama, we don't really use textbook English that often. So Haijing and I became really close friends, and one of the things we used to do together was talk about language use, and I did my best to help her learn cultural English or colloquial English. And one of the ways that she did that was by going home every night and watching Seinfeld reruns. And she would take notes on Seinfeld, and she'd jot down on index cards the words and phrases that they used in the show that she didn't understand. And she'd come to class the next day with her index cards, and we'd sit there and talk about them. And Haijing is doing great now. She's actually a professor elsewhere in the country, and the last time I ran into her, she said something was cool, and that just blew my mind because she didn't know what cool meant whenever we first started working together. So it's amazing how media can really help you become part of a culture. That's the functional approach. Now, another way to really look at it is the uses and gratifications approach. This has a little bit more of an audience angle to it, whereas the functional approach helps explain what media do in society. The uses and gratifications approach explains what we're using media for as audience members. So it's a little bit different. Media definitely fulfills a lot of our needs, like a need for cognition. If you want to learn how to make frozen Jello spritzers with beautiful snowflakes on top, there's a YouTube video for that. If you want to learn how to change a tire, go to YouTube. I am a swimmer, and I'm constantly trying to learn how to improve my stroke because I never really got lessons and kind of taught myself and picked up a lot of bad habits. So I'm always on YouTube watching videos of people who actually know how to swim and trying to improve my stroke. I think all of us have probably learned something along the way from media, whether it's through YouTube or through an educational television program. Media help us express ourselves through the use of blogs. Here's an example of one of my favorite treats, a moon pie. Somebody's got an entire blog devoted to their love of moon pies, which is amazing. But we can express ourselves in a number of different ways, particularly on social media. They also serve a very important social utility function. Now, my favorite television show of all time is Lost. If you haven't seen it, it's binge-worthy, it's wonderful. And I use this example for social utility because not only did I like the show Lost, but a lot of my friends did too. And so part of the fun of watching the show was seeing my friends in the office the next day and talking to them about what happened the night before. We were usually very confused and not sure what was really going on. And so that brought me closer to the friends that I had who actually watched the program. So it serves a very important social utility function in those senses. Now, there's a lot of emotional reasons we use media too. Catharsis, relaxation, withdrawal. The example I have here is video games, particularly Grand Theft Auto. For some reason, that one strikes a chord with a lot of my students. A lot of people say they play video games, particularly violent video games, because they help release negative energy or negative emotions that have been pent up or they would have to use in some other destructive way. For some people, video games are relaxing. Some people just want to withdraw and don't want to deal or don't want to adult for the day, and so let's play video games instead. There are many emotional uses and reasons that we would use media. There's also stimulation and diversion. Maybe we're really bored and we just want to check out what's going on Yik Yak, or we want to scroll through and see what people are snapping today on Snapchat. Diversion is really important too. We get easily diverted. I know I've been guilty of this myself. Maybe you've found yourself working on homework, but you've hopefully not, but you might right now even have another browser window open and you're looking at Facebook or Twitter or reading something else online or playing a video game. Gosh, I hope that's not you. But we divert ourselves with other things on media as well. And if you take even just the most innocent seeming television show, something like The Voice, fills a lot of these needs all at once. Emotional needs, that maybe you want to watch it by yourself and just chill out for a while. You learn about different song styles. You learn about different singers who might be popular someday. People are expressing themselves. So you see a lot of these uses and gratifications played out in a number of different contexts. All right, that's all I've got for the different approaches to media. Thank you for listening. We'll see you again soon.